Everybody, thank you for joining us. We will be starting in 2 minutes at 3:30. Hello, everybody. Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to one of Education USA Pakistan's virtual sessions. This one is called Let's Talk Study in the USA, Financing Your US Education. And the webinar will be about how you can, the different options that you can have for financing your education, whether it's for bachelor degree or a master's degree or for graduate education in the United States. Today we have 3 panelists with us. We have Ligon from Louisiana Tech University. We have Ms. Ling Zhang from Central Michigan University, and we'll also be joined by Aaron Wheelbarger from Oklahoma City University. So if you have any questions during the session, please feel free to post them on the Q&A section of the chat. If you have any questions, if you're watching this on Facebook Live, please feel free to post your questions in the comment section there, and we'll be happy to answer those questions towards the end of the session. And for now, I would like to hand it over to Ms. Ling from Central Michigan University.
Thank you, Hassan. Good morning to my colleagues in the US and good afternoon to the other participants in Pakistan. This is Ling Zhang, and I am the Director for International Recruitment at Central Michigan University. So Central Michigan University, we're located in Mount Pleasant in Michigan. So even though there's no mountains here, it's quite pleasant. So we're one of the top biggest 100 public school in the US. So we have around 22,000 students on campus. So we are very blessed. We have 4 different seasons right here in Michigan. So in the spring, that's when everything starts to bloom and I start to warm up. So in the summer right now, it's gorgeous outside. And it does get a little bit hot, but since we're around the Great Lake areas, so a lot of people will take advantage to go boating, go fishing. And in the fall, that's actually my favorite season. because that's everything change the color, as you can see on the slide. And also that's when the students are coming back. And we do have a winter, so it will get a little bit cold and you will see a little bit of snow. But our students take advantage of that. They will do all the snow related activities. So build a snowman or go out snow sledding. So at Central Michigan University, there are 6 different colleges that comprise more than 200 majors and minors. And we also have over 70 graduate programs as well. So a college is a collection, collection of majors and minors that has a common interest. So for example, if you see on this slide, we have a lot of majors listed. Accounting or information system, all this will fall under our business administration, the College of Business Administration. And if you want to see what we offer, you can go to our website. You'll be able to see all the majors that we offered at Central Michigan University. So we do have a different numbers of style of residence life on campus. So you can choose to live by yourself, or you can choose a roommate. And at Central Michigan University, we offer a lot of services even in the dorm. So you don't have to even get out of your dorm to get service like workout facility, or you can get a tutoring. My favorite place on campus is I should have put that right here on the slide, but I kind of ran out of space. So my favorite place is actually our big student center. So you'll be able to go and use the facility there. You can take advantage and use their swimming pool. You can play basketball, you can go to the hot tub, and all of this are free if you are a CMU student. So at Central Michigan University, we offer a lot of services. As one of the big public school on campus, we have tons of services are here that are free for international students and of course our domestic students as well. So with academic advising, they are really here to help you to make sure you will have this academic success when you are taking courses at CMU. And we also have a career service. They are here to help you to find an internship that will lead to a job. And we also have a counseling center. They are just here if you need someone to talk to. So with the whole coronavirus situation here, our counseling center, they can't really take students and do this face-to-face consulting, but they arrange a virtual appointment with the student. So some of our international students, when they miss home or when they want to find someone to talk to, they can just call and they can arrange an interview. And we have all the services listed on our website. And if you have any questions, you can just reach out and we'll be happy to assist. And you probably wonder how to apply. Apply at the CMU is fairly simple. You can use Common App and you can just go to our website and apply using our application online. So you do have to apply with the application fee, and you can send the transcripts to the address that listed on this slide. But one thing I want to note, with the whole coronavirus situation, we do allow our students to submit it on official transcripts. They can email that to us if you can't obtain official transcripts. And with the English test scores, we do allow students to submit it Duolingo if you can't take TOEFL or IELTS. And if you couldn't meet the English proficiency exam, you can come and take a placement test. And you can be admitted through our Pathway Bridge program. So for graduate student, please reach out to us because different graduate programs, we will have a different requirement. And we understand attending a university in the US is an investment, and we are here to help. So as one of the public school in the US, we actually offer a pretty nice scholarship for undergraduate and graduate both. With undergraduate, if you have a 3.3 GPA based on 4.0, and we'll be able to award you in-state tuition, which will bring down the tuition to $11,000 per year. And there's no cap. And if you meet the requirement, you will automatically get the scholarship. You do not need SAT or ACT to apply that scholarship. For graduate, and there are different opportunities. And we offer graduate assistantship, all different kind of graduate assistantship, from 50% to a full graduate assistantship. If you get a full graduate assistantship, you wouldn't have to pay anything for tuition, and you will get a stipend each month for getting that graduate assistantship. And also because we are big enough, so we have a lot of partners on campus. So for international student, you could work 20 hours on campus. So with the CMU, like I mentioned, we have a lot of partners. So we have Starbucks, we have Subway, we have convenience stores. So all these facilities, they will be able to offer positions, offer jobs to international students since they are right here on campus. So if you have any questions regarding that, and I'll be happy to help as well. And let's see whether we can make this work. And we do have a little video that I want to share. Okay, I think that's a wrap up. Thank you so much for your time. If you have any questions regarding Central Michigan University's admission or scholarship, please let us know. You can find our contact information on this slide. So with that, I will pass it to my colleague, Jay.
Thanks so much. Assalamu alaikum. Hope you're all doing well. I'm sad to say that I won't be able to be in Pakistan this fall. I will miss it. Certainly the mutton. love the food there and the culture and the people. But I'm really honored that EducationUSA Pakistan's allowed us to do this, to engage with you guys and see what questions you might have and how we can help. Thanks to EducationUSA for hosting this. We greatly appreciate it, Louisiana Tech University. Louisiana Tech University is a unique place, I think, because we believe that everyone should be able to afford an American education. Right now, everyone's talking about how expensive education is, whether you're overseas or in the US. Louisiana Tech has always believed that the product of our graduates is incredibly important, and we make our program available to them by offering what's called in-state tuition. So the way tuition works is usually a student that's a resident of a state, and my state is Louisiana, pays what is called in-state tuition. And any student that comes from another state would pay an additional amount called out-of-state tuition. This is true for international students as well. But Louisiana Tech waives that so that all an international student from Pakistan would be paying is the same thing a student from my state would pay, which basically means that instead of paying $18,000 a year for tuition, we bring it down to 10. So being able to afford a high technology, experience-based education where you're studying things like cybersecurity or computer science, or mechanical engineering at $10,000 a year is a huge benefit. And we do this because we just simply believe everyone should be able to afford an American education. It's one of the reasons why I'm proud to work for an organization like Louisiana Tech. You can see here, it's a beautiful campus. We quite love it. It's a peaceful place, not like the craziness that you might be seeing on the news right now. And we're quite happy with that as well. So in order to get the out-of-state tuition waiver, or what we call the Bulldog Scholarship. Oh, I'm sorry, if you can go back to the previous slide. Thank you, that would be great. The Bulldog Scholarship, you can visit our website, which you see in the bottom right, the iso.latech.edu. It's a great website, lots of good things for international students there, but that /scholarship information is very helpful. It explains the savings you'll have with the scholarship. It explains how to apply for it. It is one of those things that puts that American education in reach for you and your family financially. Next slide, please. Thank you. The next thing I want to talk about is research assistantships. Our university is very STEM focused. We do have an excellent business program, if that's something you're considering, as well as liberal arts and aviation program, architecture. But it is true that being Louisiana Tech, we are quite famous for our research. And we have really solid research assistantships. In fact, 90% of all graduate students coming to the College of Engineering and Science receives a research assistantship. The research assistantship will also waive, again, that out-of-state tuition, making tuition much more affordable, and provide a stipend. Of course, for the PhD candidates, there are those assistantships that do cover full tuition, but those are all research-based and paid by grants. So to be able to do that, you want to be able to work with a good professor in order to find some solid research they're doing that you can be a part of. I always recommend for my graduate assistants, if they're interested, the best thing you can possibly do to acquire this is to go to Google Scholar and research the faculty in the field that you're going to study. Research them there, start to familiarize yourself with the articles that they've been publishing, and then reach out to them as their biggest fan and say, wow, I love your research. This is great stuff, you know, and don't pressure, I'm looking for an assistantship. Don't pressure that. Just show your support for what they're doing. People love to hear about themselves. And so if you can do this, you'll start to get responses from interested faculty. And at that point, it's a great time to start talking about, yeah, I would love to work with you. This is the kind of thing I'm doing, and I'm applying to your university. These are great techniques to win the favor of a research professor and to guarantee you have a research assistantship. Next slide, please. Thank you. So I want to talk about managing the cost of an education. You know, I believe that so many people are looking only at tuition and fees and thinking, oh, I can afford this. And then what they do is they end up going to a place like San Francisco and paying thousands of dollars in rent, and they're just shocked. And so we need to take in other factors when budgeting the cost of higher education in the United States. Now, this is just something I took from the internet, but I do think it is a fair idea of, or summary of the kind of expenses you're going to be having. And you'll notice quickly the biggest slice of that is rent. And I would say also that if you're going to be living on campus, your meal plan is going to be another huge slice of this pie as well. Louisiana Tech allows all international students to request to live off campus. And I'm really quite happy about this because our off-campus housing is incredibly affordable. Our average rent around campus, walking distance for a 2-bedroom, is $500 a month. That's really unheard of. Most cities are much closer to $1,000. And so for a 2-bedroom for $500, to be able to split that with a roommate and only end up paying $250, you really come out much more ahead financially. And it allows more time or more resources for you to focus on these other expenses that you'd have. So take into consideration the cost of living as well, and whether you're going to be living on campus or off campus, whether you're going to be able to have affordable rent, or rent is going to be another major expense for you as you're trying to finance your American education. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the this slide here is our ambassadors. These are current students that have shared their WhatsApp numbers, and they have the email addresses here. You're welcome to reach out to them. Anj is a computer science major from Cote d'Ivoire. Shalindra is a mechanical engineer from Nepal, and Shakye is a graduate student who is graduating in the fall with his master's in electrical engineering and about to start a doctorate in biomedical engineering. Over to the right, this fellow here might look familiar to you. This is me, Jay Ligon, the director, and I've shared my WhatsApp number here as well. On our website, we have a WhatsApp feature for chat, and that goes directly to my cell phone. We are not in the business of making getting into college or communicating with us difficult. Our university and our office believes in giving you access to us. And I think we make that pretty clear by giving you direct lines to our private numbers so that you can reach us when you need to on a platform that you prefer. So I hope this has been helpful. I encourage you to don't give up on your American education dreams, even in the midst of all this craziness that we have going around. You can reach your dreams, and we hope that Louisiana Tech or the other universities presenting can be a part of that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jay, for that. That was really helpful. Unfortunately, Aaron could not be with us right now, so I will be taking over, and hopefully I can share some information with you guys about financial aid opportunities in the United States. So Ling, if you want to stop your screen share so I can go ahead with mine. Thank you. So again, welcome to the session. I really want to thank both Ling and Jay for providing us with that information. And we have a lot of questions actually that we will be taking at the end of the session, both for Louisiana Tech and Central Michigan University. So thank you once again for that. So I will be speaking more generally about financial aid and merit-based scholarships within the United States. So just to begin with, I wanted to give you an idea of what the cost of US higher education looks like. So you can clearly see here that public institutes tend to be cheaper than private institutes, where a private institute's tuition fee can go up to $50,000 a year. And this is, please keep in mind that this is an average amount. So the cost can be a lot more or a lot less than this. And this is a statistic from 2018. So I believe the costs have gone up substantially since then. You can also see here the community colleges tend to be a lot cheaper than both public and private institutes. And then, however, I wanted to make a note of how there's a lot of scholarships and financial aid that is available at private institutes, especially at liberal arts colleges. So that's one, place that you can look at for your funding options. So what does the cost of education include when you're looking at costs for your education in the United States? What does that actually entail? And there's a lot of different costs that make up the entire cost that you will be paying at the end, right? So you have your tuition and your tuition fees, which is the money that you pay for your the credits that you take at the institute. So that would be educational instruction. It could also include fees for libraries. If you're doing a degree that involves any sorts of lab equipment or for example, studio studies or science subjects, you would also be required to pay some fees for labs. And then there's the living cost itself, which includes your, number one, your room and board, which is where you will be living and the meals that you will be having. And then you have additional costs that includes books, personal expenses, health insurance, transportation, supplies, etc. So this is the two of these things broadly, the tuition fees and the living costs together make the entire cost of attendance at a particular institute in the United States. So is there financial aid available at US universities? And the answer is that a lot of institutes actually, excuse me, a lot of institutes actually do give out financial aid to international students. However, what you must keep in mind is that it really covers the entire cost of your education. So the cost that I just discussed in the previous slide, there's very, very rare chances that you would get an amount in financial aid that would cover both your tuition cost and your living costs entirely. So that's something that you must keep in mind. And the full rides that students try to compete for, they're extremely competitive, and they're also not, out there in thousands of numbers. They're very limited in number at every university in the US. Usually at undergraduate level, you're required to give standardized test reports, so either the SAT or the ACT, or if you're applying to graduate admissions, you would probably be required to give the GRE or the GMAT, depending on what subject it is that you're trying to enroll in. So these are, just to give you a bird's eye view of the financial aid within the United States. Within financial aid, you have different types of scholarships. So number one, you have merit-based scholarships where you're awarded funding, based on your own personal merits or your accomplishments and your own credentials. That could include academic achievements, standardized scores that are really high. If you have any special talents like athletics, or music, or arts, or theater, or any, if you've excelled in leadership abilities, or done a lot of social community service, those sorts of things are assessed when a college is trying to make a decision about whether you deserve merit-based scholarship or not. And then we have need-based scholarship, and within need-based scholarship, a college assesses your need. And for that, they usually ask for either the CSS profile or the International Student Financial Aid application, the ISFA. And in those applications, they try to evaluate what your need is, your financial need is, and then they make awards based on that particular need. And then the final thing is on-campus employment. So a lot of colleges and universities also give out, work study to students. It's generally not that widely available to international students, but international students too. I know that a lot of international students are prioritized when it comes to on-campus jobs at a lot of institutes. So that's also another way for you to make some pocket money for yourself. But again, something that I would like to emphasize here is that your on-campus employment would never cover your tuition cost or your living cost. This is just a side allowance that you can make for yourself and then use on personal expenses like transportation or groceries or something like that. But you should not expect that this is something that you can use towards your tuition fees or your living costs entirely. It's usually minimum wage jobs, and international students can only work up to 20 hours a week on campus. And then there are other, ways you can get financial aid or scholarships. So you can, there's a lot of home government scholarships at Pakistan. I know that HEC administers a scholarship, I believe, in collaboration with the Fulbright program. So if you're looking for graduate scholarship opportunities, you can look at HEC, or you can also look at the Fulbright program that the US government administers within Pakistan, right? So the Fulbright program is the flagship scholarship program that USCFP runs every year. It's also a fully funded program that you can apply for to get a graduate degree within the United States. And then there are private sponsors. And within private sponsors, your parents' employers, sometimes they have, allowances for their employees for college tuitions or any grants or funds like that. So you can ask your parents to ask their employers if they can help them out in any way. Or, if you have any relatives that are passionate about education and would want to support yours as well, you can definitely ask your relatives to sponsor your education as well. Something that Jay was speaking about either is also when you're looking at the cost of education, it's very important for you to look at the location where you will be going, right? So certain areas tend to be a lot cheaper to live in than others. From my personal experience, I was a student in New York, and so paying for a very small room in New York was around about $1,200 to $1,500, but my colleague Mariam, who was in Missouri, she was paying, I believe, around $400 for an entire apartment. So you look at these sorts of differences in cost that can really make a difference in your budget and your financial situation. So think about location when you're thinking about which universities you want to apply to. You know, East Coast and West Coast tend to be more expensive as compared to the Midwest and the South. So you can certainly look at, and I will be sharing some resources for you to compare costs, living costs between different cities as well. Another way to reduce your educational cost is to accelerate the program that you're studying at. And this is, I know a lot of international students take this route. However, again, this is something that something to be mindful of is that not every university would, or every program would allow you to accelerate your program. So you will have to check specifically within the from the university or the program if you're allowed to do that. I believe that a lot of A-level grades can be transferred as university credits at a lot of institutes. A lot of my friends did that at university too. So you can check with your own university if they would allow you to do that. And of course, you know, there are also summer school courses that you can take or online courses that you can take. And if you can get credit for that, you should check with the university registrar if you can transfer those credits to your home university. And then if they can be counted towards the completion of your degree. So that's another way to reduce your educational costs. And this is the resource that I was talking about earlier, which allows you to compare different costs of living between different cities. So it's called Numbeo. And if you go onto their website, what you can do is you can put in 2 different cities and it would give you a very detailed comparison of what the cost analysis looks like. You know, what does the cost of living in these 2 different cities look like? So for example, if you put your current city as Chicago, and then if you put your comparison city as, you know, let's say, you know, Kansas City, it would give you a very detailed, you know, summary and a comparison of what is it like to live in both those different cities. Here you can see an example that they have done of Ankara in Turkey and Denver in Colorado. And you know, this even goes down to tell you the difference in how much you're paying for a meal at McDonald's, right? So how much does that cost in Ankara versus how much that costs in Denver? So this is, I believe this is a very, very useful resource that you can use to make a really informed decision about where you want to attend university. And you know, like my colleague said earlier, it really, the place that you're going to, the state that you're going to, the kind of environment that you're going to, it really makes a difference in your entire college experience, right? So if you want to go to a rural setting, but if you end up in a very urban, you know, very fast-paced city life, you might not be able to settle well within that lifestyle, and that would, you know, affect your college experience. It would also, you know, affect your studies or the work that you're able to do. So I think really, you know, pay a lot of attention to the kind of setting that you want to go to, the kind of weather or climate that you would want to go to, and the kind of city do you want, if you want to be in a more suburban area or a rural area or a, you know, a big city like New York or LA or Chicago or anything like that. So just to touch upon need blind versus need aware. So need blind are those schools that do not take into consideration a student's ability to pay. So a point that I would really like to stress on is for international students, when you make your application to US universities, they look at the amount of money that you're able to pay, and they use that as a factor when they're making an admissions decision, right? So if there is a student that says that they have no ability to pay, and they would want all $75,000 in the cost of attendance and scholarships, even if that student is really brilliant, a university might not have the ability to do that in terms of funding or in terms of, you know, less amount of funding that they cannot give out full rides to a lot of students. So need blind schools are those schools that do not take into consideration your ability to pay when they're assessing your admissions application. However, there are not a lot of need blind schools in the United States. I believe there's only 5 to 6, and admission to those schools is extremely competitive. It's not something that you can very easily do. And then there are need-aware schools. Need-aware schools are, like I said, those that would look at your financial need when they're making a decision on your admissions application. Within undergraduate admissions, there is a difference in early decision and early action applications. So early decision, the main difference is that early decision applications are binding. However, early action applications are non-binding, and I believe you can do more than one early action application. As opposed to early decision, you can only do a single early decision application. However, early decision can really substantially increase your chance of acceptance at some universities. So if there's a particular school that you're very, very passionate about, which you consider to be your dream school, which you would really like to attend, then I would encourage you to check if they allow early decision applications and try and submit an early decision application to that university. Within the nature of these two applications, the requirements also vary. So a lot of ED applications and EA applications might ask you to submit SAT test subjects as well. So SAT subject tests is not something that is required at every university. Only some universities require it, and then only some universities require it at the ED or the EA level. So you should check with the universities what their requirements are for ED and EA applications. And if they require subject tests and SAT tests, then you would have to, October test would be the last test that you're able to give, because for most schools, November 1st is the ED application deadline. So please be careful about the deadlines, and please be careful of the requirements and how they vary for both ED, EA, or regular applications. Like I mentioned earlier, for financial aid, a university can use either the CSS profile or the International Student Financial Aid application to assess your financial need. The CSS profile is a very lengthy 30-page application that asks for a lot of details relating to your financial situation and your parents' financial situation. And I believe you have to pay $25 for the first application and then $16 for every subsequent CSS profile that you submit for every university. However, for the International Student Financial Aid application, it's a free application, and I believe it's only 3 pages long. But it's fairly new as compared to the CSS application. So a lot of universities might not be using it, but for those that are using it, I would encourage you to go with the second option, because it's easier to fill out and there is no cost attached to sending this application to the university. So please check with the university what is it that they require for financial aid applications, and then fill out those applications accordingly. For graduate financial aid, it's a little different from undergraduate, where you do not have to submit any CSS or the International Student Financial Aid application. However, there's different forms of funding for graduate students, and Jay, I believe, went over some of them, where first you have graduate teaching assistantships, which cover the expenses for graduate students. However, again, for every university, this can mean different things. So some graduate assistantship might just be a 20-hour per week job that you do with the professors. For some, there might be a tuition waiver, or for some, there might be a stipend attached to it as well. So it really depends on the university and what kind of funding their graduate teaching assistantship entails. What it involves is that you would probably be co-teaching a course with the teacher that you are an assistant for. You would also probably be asked to grade exams, administer quizzes, and then subsequently grade them as well. You might also, if you're an assistant for a science professor, then you might also be assisting them within laboratories, and just menial administrative work is always, or clerical work might also be required of you if you're doing an assistantship. Like I said, it can cover out-of-state tuition or a monthly stipend to cover housing and other expenses. or health insurance coverage in some cases. But like I said, that's not necessary. You might not get all of that, and it depends on the university itself. So yeah, that's about it from my side for today's presentation. I will be taking your questions now, and if Jay and Ling, I would, if you could answer those questions to the best of your abilities, that would be great. So let me just move back to our homepage. Great. For a teacher's assistantship, Nozena is asking, should we contact directly the professor that we want to be a TA for, or should we contact the department?
So I'll take that one because I know I brought it up in the presentation, if that's okay. My suggestion is more of how to win favor with the professor who might want to take you on as a research assistant. A scholarship is like free money, right? You apply for it, you get it, that's great. Research assistantship's a job. You're basically going to be researching for a professor, you're going to be teaching a class, you're going to be doing some task. And I think everyone here probably knows the difference between applying for a job with someone you know and applying for a job with someone you don't. So if I apply for a job, my uncle's going to hire me much easier than a total stranger. And so the idea is that by reaching out to a professor and showing your appreciation for the research they're doing is a way to start winning favor with a valuable faculty member. And by doing that, and especially if that person replies to you, then you've done a pretty spectacular job of showing interest in their research and just admiration. And then I would say after doing that, my next step would be to reach out to them and tell them, I've applied for admission because I want to study under you. And then notify them when you're admitted and continue that conversation, develop that relationship. And as that relationship builds, the likelihood of you getting that assistantship increases significantly. This is just my personal advice. This isn't necessarily how one applies for an assistantship. So I just want to distinguish that. But I'll let my colleague talk about assistantships as well.
Thank you, Jay. I totally agree with Jay. But sometimes you might also want to reach out to the department because for the department, they might be able to tell you which professor might be looking for a graduate assistantship, a graduate assistant. Because like, my colleague Jay mentioned, so at the graduate level, it's very different. It depends on the lab capacity, whether that faculty could take, a graduate assistant in that person's lab, and reaching out to the professor and also reach out to the department, and they might be able to provide additional information that you can, again, follow up with the right professor. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Thank you. I think that was really helpful. Adil Ali is asking, does CMU and Louisiana Tech offer undergraduate programs in aeronautical or aerospace engineering?
We do not.
Okay. And Jay?
I saw that question too. I was excited by it, but we do not have an aeronautic engineering program. We have mechanical engineering, we have physics, we have an aviation program, but we do not have something solely for aeronautics.
Okay, thank you. Somebody here has asked the total cost of attendance for Louisiana Tech if they are considered an in-state student. Shahriar is asking that question.
Sure, and so the total cost of attendance for tuition and fees would be roughly around $10,000 a year and some change. So go ahead and round that up to about 11. So that'd be 11,000. And then there will be additional fees such as insurance. Every college has a fee that happens due to lab resources and things like that. So I would say if you're only looking at the academics, I would have prepared 13 to 14,000. And then on top of that, you'd have your living expenses. On our I-20 amount, for instance, if someone gets the Bulldog scholarship, that's the one that allows you to pay the in-state tuition. our I-20 bound is $21,000, and that shows us and the U.S. government that you're able to afford cost of living and the cost of education. But we have found that many of our international students will rent a large house, maybe a 3 or 4 bedroom home for around $1,000, and then put a whole bunch of friends in there, and they're able to get by with much less. But I'd have to say that that's probably the most solid answer I can give you on that question.
Great. That's very helpful, actually. Thank you. And then we have another question. What would be the best time to reach out to, again, it's a graduate-centered question. What would be a best time to reach out to professors for research assistantship recruitment? I guess what would be a great time to start, building a connection with them or informing them about you?
Today.
Okay.
There's really, there's nothing wrong with being proactive. The only thing that is wrong is being impatient in a response. Mm-hmm. So if you send out an email to a professor and express that interest, that's great, and allow time for that to develop. Professors are incredibly busy, and so when you don't hear back from them in 48 hours, don't freak out, right? Just realize, okay, that's great. I laid a seed. We'll see if that grows. And maybe you don't hear anything back ever, and that's nothing wrong. That just means this person received your email and was maybe too busy to respond, but you've laid that seed, and I would give it a little bit of time, maybe a few weeks. I'd send something else, and try to develop that relationship naturally, but I would not rush it. I would not pressure it.
Great. And then somebody has asked if you could speak a little bit about if there are any loan opportunities for international students at your institutes.
We do not. And it's going to be kind of hard.
I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I was going to say, I think our silence says 1,000 words.
Right.
Yeah.
It's very hard to get a loan as an international student in the United States. Those that can get it in their home country, more power to them.
Yeah. Okay, great. Does applying for early decision give me a better chance of getting merit scholarships? Do you guys have early decision applications? And would that increase your chance of getting a merit scholarship?
Well, at CMU, we do not have early decision or early admission. So I work at a private university before I came to CMU. At that school, they do have early decision or early admission. So to answer your question, no, you can apply today or you can apply next year. Very likely, you're going to get a very similar scholarship. So if you apply before the deadline, you should be able to get the same amount of scholarship.
Okay. And I'd say Louisiana Tech's the exact same. We are not elitist. We do not require early decision or early action. We want you to find the best fit. And so that takes time and research, and we're not going to hold you to some promise that sounded right to you 6 months ago. So you're able to change your mind about attending our university right up to the day of orientation. That is fine. We want you to make the best decision.
Great, thank you. Somebody here has a question about housing, and I was wondering if you guys can speak a little bit about whether first-year students have to live on campus at your institutes, and how does living on campus compare to living off campus? If you could just speak about that.
I can answer that one first, and then I will let my colleague Jay answer it, because I know we have a different answer. So at the Central Michigan University for year 1 and year 2, if you're a freshman, you will have to live on campus, because we want to make sure that the international student, and I think there is some research even for domestic student, if you live on campus, you are more likely to be successful. With that said, it doesn't mean if you live off campus, you cannot be successful. It's just living on campus for the first year give you the experience, and also it's much easier to make friends. So I was an international student myself. I attended, a university here. And for my first year, and I actually came for graduate study. And for my first year, I actually live on campus, and I'm really grateful that I did, because I was able to make a lot of friends. But then the third year and the fourth year, you'll be able to live off campus. And we're in kind of like the Midwest, so the cost of living off campus is pretty reasonable, it's pretty affordable as well. With a transfer student or graduate student, we do have on-campus housing. However, they are not required to live on campus. I'll pass that to Jay.
Yeah, great, thank you.
I lived on campus as a freshman and I loved it. I have to say, I mean, it is a great experience. It's also incredibly expensive. And so we allow our international students to choose to live off campus, but I would never, ever tell a student to not consider that experience. I think it's so wonderful. And we also know that many of our international students want to live off campus due to religious reasons or dietary reasons or just simple cultural reasons. They might feel uncomfortable being well, I'm not even going to list the options there, but I mean, there could be a number of things. And so we try to be aware of that and allow them that privilege. But what ends up happening is most students choose it for financial reasons.
Yeah. And I can speak from speaking from my personal experience as well. I lived on campus my first year, and then I applied to be an RA, and then I was an RA for the rest of the 3 years, which is a resident advisor. And a lot of universities have that option where you can be a resident advisor, and that usually, reduces the amount that you're paying for housing. Some universities offer full waiver for housing. Some universities offer half a waiver. And then there's usually, for a lot of universities, there are stipends that resident advisors get per semester as well. So if you're an international student and you really don't want to compromise on getting that full US college experience, of living on campus, and it makes a huge difference in the entire college experience as well. So I would highly encourage you to do that, and look at the RA options that you have for living on campus. And that usually you get a single room as well. So that's always a bonus if you're not RA.
I do need to say one more thing though. There are numerous housing options on campus. And so choosing the least expensive housing option is choosing the least expensive housing option. And so, so if you're going to live on campus and you find the most affordable dormitory, realize you're looking at communal bathrooms, you're looking at, 3 to a room, 2 to a room, whatever that might be, versus if you're looking at those more expensive on-campus options, such as apartments or things like that, you start to get a lot more perks and benefits in that option.
Yeah. Great. There is a question. There's actually a lot of questions here asking if you guys have any application fee waivers for international students. If you could answer that.
Well, we do. However, it's not very often that international or including American students' application can get waived. So you will have to go through our processing team, and you have to give the reason why you want your application fee get waived. Jay?
Yeah, I have to say, we were cited in U.S. News and World Report as one of the universities that has the highest acceptance rate for international students in the U.S. So for us, that application fee is not money wasted. You're going to likely get accepted. I think so far we've rejected 2 students for this upcoming fall for undergraduates. If that tells you the kind of admission rate we have. So and our application fee is only $30. At the same time, that money that we collect on those also helps us fund that generous scholarship that we offer to all incoming international students. So we don't look at waiving the application fee. Instead, we say it's $30 the likelihood of you getting admitted is extremely high. And we hope that you see the benefit in paying towards the scholarship that you'll be getting for the next 4 years.
Great, thank you so much. And then we'll take one last question. Here, somebody has asked if there's a possibility of getting 2 different scholarships at the university at the same time.
I can go again first because I know Jay always have a better answer, you know. So I was like, I'd better go first. So at the Central Michigan University, we offer, you know, very similar to Jay's Louisiana Tech. We are a public school, however, we offer pretty nice scholarship. So we don't put a cap on the presidential scholarship, which will qualify the international student for in-state tuition. And that is a merit-based scholarship. To be honest, don't really think we have another scholarship that you could apply to, because that's going to be the major scholarship, unless you are on our athletic team. Otherwise, I don't see that you could get a 2 different scholarship. And I will let Jay to answer that question as well.
Well, thank you so much for that statement, but that's not true. Both of our answers are very, very good. I'm enjoying this conversation, so thank you so much. Yeah, you can get additional scholarships, but those scholarships might not be as substantial as that initial Bulldog scholarship for Louisiana Tech. So, for instance, we just did an economic hardship scholarship for COVID-19. And we fundraised for that and were able to give out numerous $500 scholarships. And although that wasn't a significant amount of money in comparison to the Bulldog scholarship, that's the kind of support that we felt our students needed during this time. So we were more than happy to do it. We wish it could have been more. We also have international scholarships at our International Scholarship Dinner, which are fundraised. And once a year, we give out about $7,000 total in scholarship funds. So as you can see, the amounts of these scholarships, when divided amongst such a large international population, are much smaller than the impact of our major scholarship, which is that Bulldog scholarship. But unlike my colleague, we do not offer such things like presidential scholarships or that to international students. But that goes back to our generosity approach of the Bulldog Scholarship, offering that to all international students.
Great, thank you so much. Well, I would really like to thank both Ling and Jay for taking out their time. And, you know, I believe it's a very early time in the United States. So thank you so much for, you know, taking out time to speak to students here in Pakistan. I think the session was extremely helpful to everybody. And I hope that they were able to learn a lot of information about financial aid opportunities. Just so if you have any more questions in the future, you can write to these 3 email addresses for more information or for questions, or to you know, start working with an advisor on your application to a US university. For people who are in Punjab, they can write to Lahore@educationusa.org. The people who are in Balochistan and Sindh, they can write to Karachi@educationusa.org. And for people who are in the capital or federal areas, or in the northern areas, they can write to Islamabad@educationusa.org. Thank you everybody so much for joining today. And I hope everybody has a wonderful day. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Sam.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.